on my cousin, and this was after I arrived at his house, and you're really telling it to us, so show us. Maybe I jumped on my cousin, grabbed his shirt or something like that, and really, give a little more detail about the moment. So really describe what happened there, and by making it super dramatic, then the readers are really interested in wanting to know what happened, and that's when you can go on to explain you were playing this game and you went to his house. So just really, I think what you guys need to do is, a lot of you started with your exciting moment and maybe didn't describe it a whole lot. You sort of told, okay, this is what happened and then this is what led up to it. But what you really want to be doing is, or what you want to try to be doing is to be describing it. Like for instance with this one, the blackberry vine catching in the hair, struggling to pull free, bleeding arms, all of that. You want to really describe it. So some of you did this really well, using the moment to, and really describing it. But you want to make sure that you're not just using one sentence to say, this is what happened, this is what led up to what happened. You want to actually really describe it. So try to use more details and more descriptive language when you're describing that really exciting moment. Now, I want to ask you, now that you've tried out writing these two different styles of beginnings, which do you like more, the chronological order or the starting at the most exciting point? That sort of got muddled up there. Raise your hand if you like chronological order. Okay, raise your hand if you like the starting at the exciting point order. So a lot of raised hands. Okay, so why do you like the starting at the most exciting point?
Because the action comes and then you can backtrack to when it first started.
The action comes, so it's really exciting from the beginning. Now, what are some ways that you could make, when you start with the most exciting point, what are some ways that you can highlight how exciting it is?
Use good vocabulary.
Use good vocabulary. Yeah, you want to use good word choice. It really captures the moment. And sorry, I know I've been using that phrase, capture the moment, a lot, but the reason I'm saying this so much is because this is your most exciting moment, and you really want to make the reader understand how exciting or how important it is to you. So make it really dramatic. You don't worry too much about, oh, is this too dramatic? People will think it really didn't happen to me. But if it did happen to you, then you want to really describe it exactly as dramatic as it was. So be sure to use good details. That's very important. What are some other ways that you might share with the reader how exciting something is?
Use details about the story, about what's happening.
Use details about what's happening. Very good. Do you guys remember from personal narrative number 1, day before yesterday, how we were talking about the ice cream and using descriptive details? And why did we use descriptive details with the ice cream and the 2 flavors of ice cream?
To make the reader think what ice cream looked like and how it tasted.
That was part of it, to help the reader get a visual image of it and imagine how it tasted. But what else? What else was part of the reason we wanted to do that?
To make the reader think how much you like the different kinds of ice cream.
Yeah, to make the reader understand how difficult the choice was, because they see, oh, well, if strawberry is so delicious and they really want it, but then if chocolate is so delicious and they really want it, then of course it's a hard choice. So by describing, then you help the reader understand how hard your choice was. And so with your guys' conflicts, what I want you to do is really make me understand why it was such a tough conflict or why it was so important to you. So, for instance, with jumping on your cousin, you say that you jump on your cousin, but you don't show me how you feel, or was there blood just coursing through your veins and you were super mad and you just couldn't believe that they would have said anything like that or done anything like that. So you want to really show how you feel and make sure that I understand, as a reader who's never been in your position before, make sure that I understand how important or how tough or whatever your conflict is. So like with the eggs, I might just wonder, well, what's the big deal about eggs getting messed up? So again, you want to make it dramatic and make me understand how disappointed or angry or however you felt. So, do you guys have any questions about writing your personal narrative? Okay, well, I want to quickly show you just, let me see. I want to show you, how many of you are familiar with a story arc?
Wow.
Oh, a story arc, so like the kind of shape that a story takes as it's outlined. I should have actually shown this to you when I was talking about the chronological order, but I was basically, and I might not be drawing it quite right, but a story arc is, yeah, so you probably know what it is now. It's essentially, so this is your exposition, and that's where it's basically where you're telling your audience, well, this is who's who, and this is what's happening, and then you have an incident that kind of sets the ball rolling. So maybe, for instance, when you start making cookies, or when you wander into the woods, and that really starts it going upwards from there, getting more exciting. And then over here is your most exciting point, where it just reaches a really super exciting point, and then it would go downward from there, and it gets resolved, or your conflict would get resolved. Now, when you start your narrative at the most exciting point, then you're taking it from probably somewhere around here, this area, and then you would work your way backwards. You would say, well, you know, this is what happened, this is where I am, this is how I got there. So the story arc, I should be doing this in different colors probably, but the story arc that you can take from your list by sort of imagining, so this is my introduction, this is my most exciting point, this is its resolution, then you know where to start your most exciting point and then work backwards. So, my tips for you guys, just hearing your writing, a lot of you have been doing some really good work with details. Some of you might need to add more details to your introduction so that we get how tough the conflict is. But overall, really nice job. I see that a lot of you really understand the idea of chronological order versus starting at the most exciting point. And so if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to take them. They don't necessarily have to be about personal narratives, but they can be.
For the story arc, how the tip of the story arc was the most exciting point, and the ball at the left side was kind of how it starts up and then gets more exciting. What were the lines?
The lines. Oh, let me go back. And sorry, because I did it all in one color, it might have been a little confusing. So these lines here, that's what you're talking about, or? Okay. So let me label these in. So this right here is the exposition, and that's basically a fancy way of saying the introductory part. And that's where you're talking about, oh, Doris Vitok lives in Redmond, Washington State. She's 13 years old. Obviously not quite that boring, but the exposition is essentially where you're introducing your setting and your characters. Now, and then this is, yes, the inciting incident is what it's called. But you can basically just call it the point that starts off your conflict, or that starts the ball rolling. And then over here is, I believe it's called the denouement, which is like a French word for tying up. But that's hard for me to remember how to pronounce. So you can just think of it as the resolution or the ending portion. And honestly, I'm not entirely sure how to spell denouement, but just basically once, like for instance, if you have your story and the way that your conflict ends is that your parents give in and decide to buy you a video game, then that would be over here. It's your wrapping up point. So once your conflict or your story reaches the most exciting point and it starts going downhill, that's sort of where your conflict gets resolved. Any other questions?
In history, there was it, like Martin was right before about this. Was this still be a personal narrative?
I'm sorry?
If somebody was dead, like Martin Luther King, and you wanted to write stories on him, would that still be a personal narrative?
Very good question. So if you wanted to write about a person who's dead, like Martin Luther King, that would not be a personal narrative. it would be a, well, if you were writing like nonfiction about them, then it would be, it might be like a biography or sort of a report on them. If you wanted to write a story about them, then it would be a fictional narrative. So the only way that it would be a personal narrative would be if you were writing a personal narrative about how you've been inspired by Martin Luther King. But if you were writing about Martin Luther King and not about yourself at all, then it would be either a fictional narrative if it was a story, or a biography of some kind, or a report or a presentation if you were telling about his life. Very good question. Any others?
Where did you first, like, what store did you first see your books in?
I'm sorry?
What store or where did you see your books? What was the first place you saw your books?
What was the first place I saw my books? Well, actually, I was very lucky. I happened to, I was able to hold the first copy of my book in my hands, and I still have it actually. So, and that was really cool. Actually, we got to go to where it was printed and see the book and I got to hold it in my hands. So that was a really fun experience. And as far as where my books are sold, was that your question? Yeah, then both of my books, Dancing Fingers and Flying Fingers, they're on my website, adorisvtalk.com. I know that's a little hard to spell. I can write it out quickly. So just my name and added.com. And that has also, if you want to write to me or ask me any questions or learn more about any of the projects that I do and stuff, then you can go to my website and find out more. Great, so can I take any last questions?
Like when you first introducing somebody in your story, like I did that on my one of the practice prompts we did in class. When you write a person's name and you don't think your character knows who that is it ever okay to like write who the person is in the parentheses next to the name?
Yeah, I would say it depends. It really depends on what context is. I have done that before. So, for instance, I was doing a report, or actually I was writing a script for a documentary I was making for a historical event. And yeah, I did say so-and-so, parentheses, head of the intelligence department, parentheses. So yeah, I think it's acceptable. You might want to check, depending on the type of assignment or what it's for, then whether that's okay. But I think it should be okay in most situations. And definitely when you're writing for people who might not know who your mom is or your friend from down the street, you definitely want to explain who they are. You know, instead of saying Annie rode down the street on her BMX, you would say Annie, my friend next door, or Annie, my friend from school, or Annie, my cousin. So yeah, you definitely want to explain. All right. Well, I'll just take one more question. Sorry about that.
If you want to see one of your books on your website, do you have to type your name in all caps like you did?
No, sorry. I just wrote it in all caps. No, you definitely don't have to type it in like that. But no, I just wrote it in all caps so it'd be a little easier to read. But you don't have to. No, you don't have to do that. Okay. Does the teacher have any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. You guys have done a really great job. I really appreciated your work. Just remember to use those descriptive details, and creating suspense in your personal narratives can be really simple. Just think, next time you pick up a story to read, think about, why is this story interesting to me? Why am I flipping the pages? What is the author doing to make me keep on reading? Take that technique and use it in your own writing. So thank you all very much. I really enjoyed the session, and I hope you have a great time writing your personal narratives.
Bye.